Have you ever wondered how Floridians get prepared for a hurricane? Well, today we're going to talk about how that happens. So today is part two in the series of how to get prepared, or how Floridians get prepared for a hurricane. So today is probably going to be fairly short because really the Hurricane Dorian, this is day two, is just kind of churning just east of the Western Antilles and the Bahamas, and so it has slowed down a lot. There's a high pressure system that's above it, and now what they're saying is that there's this cold front that's coming through, and it's shifting it and wobbling a little bit, which means that just because of that, before the track hit the coastline, went right up Florida, right over Orlando. Now the eye itself has shifted over to the right on the eastern side of Florida, and they're saying, well, it's going to hug the coastline and go right up. So they're saying this might be another Matthew situation, is what one meteorologist said. Well, Matthew, what it did, it was coming up the coastline. It was already predicted to do that. And then there was another shift. It just shifted right out like 50 to 100 miles. That makes like a huge difference. And it pretty much was sunny days here in Orlando. It was just like any other day. So lose it when it comes to hurricanes, because even right up at the last minute, that hurricane can make a dramatic shift, and all this preparation that you did, you spent all this money, you've done all this stuff, it never happened. As of right now, Seminole County Schools, and the county that I live in, Seminole County Schools, is just north of Orlando. That's where my son goes to school. That's been canceled for Tuesday. So if it would have stayed on the track originally that had said, I said that whole week, next week, is going to be wiped out. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday's Labor Day, so I wasn't even going to work in my day job. And Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was going to be Tuesday, Wednesday of storm. Thursday, Friday, damage control, getting electricity up. Irina, which was the hurricane from a couple years ago, that one wasn't even really that serious, and we lost power at the building that I work at during the day for 3 days. So if you factor that in, this one was supposed to be worse. Then yeah. So like I said, the hurricane is coming right up the coastline. The European model, which is really a lot more accurate and has been, that one is even more off. The complete storm is like 50 miles off to the right. If that's the case, we're going to get some wind, maybe up to 30, 40 miles per hour gust, and that's it. It'll probably be a sunny day. If it wobbles to the left for whatever reason, then we're back to where we were before. We're back to when it's going to come hit us, and all bets are off. But Floridians, like I said, have been in these things for so long that usually this stuff doesn't happen. I know it sounds like Florida always gets hurricanes, but that's not usually the case. These hurricanes that they come, they go off in all these different directions. So we haven't had a hurricane here in a couple of years. Before that, it had been many years before actually something was serious in Florida. Irene, I didn't think was that serious. So this one could have been. It could have been monstrous. It could have been completely damaging, and who knows? Maybe it is. However, here in Florida, a lot of people have been getting gas. They've been getting their water. They've been stocking off the shelves. Lines are starting to form now. I wouldn't say people are panicking, but in flooded areas, where the flooding is, people are throwing sandbags down. That still could be a problem for people who live, especially along the coast or around lakes. Flooding is still an issue that they have to deal with. The St. Johns River, which is north of here, that's flooding as well. That's days afterwards. That's what a hurricane. In fact, they say most of the damage comes from the flooding and the rain and all of that stuff. So, but as for me, I'm looking at it as, that thing's probably just going to go off to the right, and all this was going to be for nothing. So that's why we don't kind of jump at everything right away. We really sort of wait until that last minute. In fact, they only just changed when things were going to hit landfall, like last night, this morning. Before, this was all supposed to happen on Sunday, Monday, into Tuesday. They shifted everything a day. Monday night, Tuesday, Wednesday, and it may even shift some more. So with today being Friday night, tomorrow being Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, that's a lot of time for this thing to do whatever. And the meteorologist says, well, because it's moving so slow, because it's not really moving that fast, lots can happen north of it with the cold front that's coming in, the high pressure starting to dissipate, that this thing could just go right off back into the ocean and we're done. So, that's just how that goes. So what do I have? Water, gasoline. Stuff is going to get used. I'm going to use it for my lawnmower. I'm going to use it for my cars. Water, we drink water here all the time. So, really I didn't spend a lot of money. I think probably myself, I probably spent maybe $50 for, getting groceries and water. And then in terms of gas, I spent maybe almost $100 just to fill everything up and get ready. But I haven't gotten my generator. I haven't gotten my personal air conditioner, which my generator runs. I haven't gotten everything set up. I haven't mowed my lawn yet, which I was going to wait until, really close to when the storm was actually going to come before I mowed my lawn. I haven't done any of that stuff. Clearly I'll mow my lawn at this point. But, it's so far, it's going right up the coast. I think it may turn into a dud, goes off to the right, and this may only be a 3-part series. If it's going to stay where it's at, or if it shifts to the left a little bit, you're going to hear some more conversations. So today, we had lots of thunderstorms, big thunderstorms coming in, had nothing to do with the hurricane. That stuff happens here all the time anyway. It's pretty cloudy outside, got a little bit of wind. I was making a joke that it was the trailer for the movie. So we'll see what happens. However, I did do an interview today with somebody who is from Florida, has been here all their lives. His name is Randy Gillis, and got some impressions from him. Talk to him a little bit. How does he get prepared? He's been through way more hurricanes than I have, but it's interesting to hear like his approach, his outlook on how hurricanes are, and he's well aware about how people in the north or people who don't live in Florida that don't deal with hurricanes that often respond. So let's take a look at that, and then afterwards I'll wrap this up, and really that'll be it. Short one today. There we go. Don't worry, I do some editing. So, Randy Gillis, tell me a little bit about your background.
I've been here at Top Tech for 17 years. It's been fun. Never a dull moment in this place.
You grew up here in Florida?
I did. I grew up in Melbourne and moved to Orlando, went to UCF. Came back here after a few years and have stayed in the Orlando area for many, many years.
So what's your experience with hurricanes and growing up in Florida? How many have you been through? What kind of damage have you seen personally?
I've been through countless hurricanes. I have no idea how many. I remember them as a kid. Mom and Dad would be pretty serious about it, and we were just excited that we get to stay home from school. And when the eye would pass, that would be an eerie feeling, and we could actually get out and play, and there was no rain. And then it would go back to chaos, and then we'd come back out and we'd have to clean up the entire yard. And that was growing up. I never thought of them as something dangerous for me, because my parents shielded me from any of that, and we never experienced one that actually destroyed a house or anything tragic like that.
I mean, but you know that they can be dangerous. They certainly can be.
Absolutely, they can. They just weren't for us.
Yeah. Do you think that the reaction, because for me, I have family up north, and they see this huge cloud that's coming over to the whole state, and they go all crazy, and they're texting me, and they're like, "Get out of there!" But how do you feel about that when people from up north react to hurricanes?
Well, I think it's common to be fearful of what you don't understand and what you know could kill you. And certainly hurricanes could kill you at a moment's notice. But people in other areas of the country, they have other natural disasters that are equally as dangerous, from a tornado to an earthquake. And so there's nothing that I think separates a hurricane, except maybe all the media hype on TV that it's countless shows and news reports about changing directions of a hurricane and where it's coming.
Yeah, what do you think about how the news really portrays people getting in lines at the gas stations and wrapping around the block? I mean, do you really think that's like that here in Central Florida?
It is like that in Central Florida. I mean, from Monday, Tuesday on, as we prepare for a hurricane coming next week, already we're having shortages of gas. We're already seeing no water available. We're seeing all the things that you think you might need for a hurricane. You just can't get them. So, yeah, the hype really, I think, drives panic and anxiety.
So you think that the panic and anxiety is driven by what's being said, maybe by the media, that says to people, oh man, I better get out there and get all this stuff, where they may not necessarily have to get so crazy about it? Or do you think it's the opposite?
Well, I think it's a little of both. And because hurricanes are so tricky to predict, you don't know whether you need it or not. And so if you don't have it and you needed it, then that could be a real travesty. If you did have it, say water, and you needed it because you lost power for a week, well, then that's an appropriate buy and it's an appropriate need. I don't think that the media is actually trying to spur anxiety. I think they're trying to do their best to prepare the community. And frankly, I think that inadvertently it ends up with creating a panic.
So do you, on a personal level, as you're coming up to the hurricane, do you have feelings that develop along the way? Like at first you're like, that thing could turn any way and you're not too worried about it. But as you get closer to it, does it then begin to create anxiety for you?
My experience with hurricanes, it is the single most anxious event for me in my life. That stems from really the house that we live in and we have lived in for the last 11 years. The first week that we moved in, within a week we had a hurricane, and we had leaking that was unexplainable, mysterious, and we couldn't figure that out. Our house only leaks when there's a hurricane, but it leaks every hurricane. So there's an expectation that there will be some way that water will find its way through some crevasse in our house somewhere and will cause some damage. So we understand that, but it still makes me very anxious. And so my anxiety is driven from the fact that it's a virtual reality that I'm going to have some sort of damage that I'll have to pay for, and B, I'll have to deal with.
It's interesting because it sounds like your anxiety is more for your house. You didn't mention your family or the safety of your family or anything like that. Is it because you've been through so many hurricanes and you know how to deal with them that isn't at the top of your mind?
It's not at the top of my mind because if you separate the house, I know my family's going to be with me. I know we're going to do everything that we can to protect ourselves. I know that accidents can happen. If they do, then we'll deal with that. But I'm not going to get overtly concerned about those. I am going to understand that life has its adventures. Hurricane is part of that adventure.
My message to my family is, if I'm feeling fine, if I am confident about getting through the hurricane, then they should feel okay. If I am fleeing the scene or if I'm saying, oh yeah, this is, I'm very nervous about what's going to happen, then okay, it's time to. Now, I don't fault my loved ones. I mean, I don't, because I know that they only mean well for me and everything. But I feel like what they do is, and I've told this story about my father in the last hurricane a couple of years ago, that he was texting me, "Get out of there! You're gonna die! Get out of there right now!" Because he was watching the news, and he doesn't know. He doesn't. For me, this is my 11th hurricane, so I always feel like if there was a danger, then yes, please worry about me. If there's not, how do you feel about that?
Chris is going to be okay. Stop worrying about him. Okay?
So, in terms of like preparation, you being a Floridian, what's your general approach to it? Do you have a step-by-step plan that you do up to the hurricane that you've always used and has worked for you? Or is this, you're just kind of winging it and know that you just need certain things? What is your preparation approach?
Certain things you keep on hand. So water would be one of those. Batteries would be one of those. Candles would be one of those. Chargers for your phone, and having them charged. And the couple days leading up to it, I'll make sure that anything and everything that can carry a charge is powered on. I already have kids that have figured out that you can charge your phone using a laptop, so that they're charging all the laptops to full, and just so they have an extra battery if they need to. As far as house prep, we don't have boards for windows because we live in a 2-story house. So that's one thing that we don't have to deal with, but I deal with that with my mom, making sure that she's all set and ready to go. We do bring in things that we know might turn into missiles or some kind of flying object outside, and we bring in everything from the porch. So we have to play Tetris with the garage and move everything from the back porch into the garage, or take PVC furniture and throw it in the pool. So that way it will not go anywhere.
So during the hurricane, when the wind is whipping and you're hearing everything go on, how do you feel during that time as that wind is going and you're with your family? And how do you guys handle that? Does it create anxiety? Do you just like, well, this is what a hurricane is, and you're playing games, or what do you do in that situation?
It can create some anxiety depending on what's happening. We have a solar array on our roof, and during the last Hurricane Irma, that started to fall off of the house, and it was basically banging like a gigantic hand on top of the house, and just that constant banging sent everybody into a frenzy. And my prayer was that God would just rip that thing off the house and put it in the yard so that the banging would stop, or you would just make the storm go away. When we woke up the next morning, what had happened was that it actually picked up and it lodged itself on a pipe sticking out of the roof, so that it actually stayed in one place and did not cause any significant damage to the house. So an incredible change.
So other than that, but during the hurricane, what are you guys doing? Just sitting around? Are you trying to keep yourselves occupied?
We'll play board games. We'll watch Netflix. We try to stay away as much as we can from watching the news, because it's the same thing over and over, and that'll spin you up.
Would you say, on a positive note, and I'm not trying to say that a killer hurricane should create this, but do you think on a positive note it creates a bond with your family, that you get to have more time together, because you're pretty confined in that area?
Absolutely, it does. And if there is a mission, so for instance, if there is something that happens in the yard and you got to take care of that emergency, whether it's a tree that's fallen down or something else, where you have to quickly repair a leak or a broken window or whatever, the family rallies together. So it creates moments, and I can think through the past several years of hurricanes, the last dozen or so, and all the experiences, even though some of them have been negative, the fun that we've had through those times has been great. So,
do you have a generator or anything like that?
I don't have a generator. I did look into buying some in the last couple of days. I didn't. But my mother has a generator that if we needed to, we could move from her house to mine, or vice versa.
So, if you were to advise people that are new here on getting prepared for a hurricane, would you say, yeah, you don't need a generator? Or do you firmly believe they should have one? You've gone this many years without one.
I have. I frankly just don't want to pay for it. That's the big thing. But I think a generator is extremely helpful. And as far as a stress relief, knowing that you have a generator is probably a significant weight there. So that if you do lose power, fortunately for us, in my experience, I've never lost power longer than 3 days. And so for us, it's always been something that we've been able to recover gracefully from. But in cases where, and it's common that you may lose power for a week, in those cases, you got to have a plan. And if you live through that, you're probably more apt to say, I have to have a generator. So
do you feel that it's advisable to prepare for at least 2 weeks, or have a plan for 2 weeks, or just based off your experience, I don't think it's going to go more than a week, so I only prepare for that?
I haven't seen a case where it's been multiple weeks. Some probably have, but honestly, I haven't. So I think that's really a worst case scenario. A couple days at best is a threshold for me and my family and the rest.
So if you were to have a message for people seeing this that aren't from Florida, that are outside the state, that don't understand hurricanes, what is your message to them as to, compared to what they see on the news, as to what you experience on a personal daily basis with these?
We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. That's the message. We'll get through this. Pray for us, and know that all kinds of things happen, whether that's a blizzard or a tornado or an earthquake or a hurricane. Things like this, if they don't kill us, they make us stronger.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, sir. Thank you for talking with us.
And don't stress about Chris. He'll be okay.
Join us on Polis, where we work to find common ground through discourse. We would talk about all things, political or otherwise. This is an open forum for discussion about all aspects of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.